I very much welcome the fact that he gave clarity after that horrendous terrorist attack by Hamas on the 7th of October. He didn't try to contextualise it. He just called it out as a terrorist attack. And I think a lot of people really welcomed that. But since then, there has been a growing pressure, unsurprisingly, given the fact that we have Jeremy Corbyn sitting on the backbenches. Yes, he's no longer a Labour MP, but has a lot of friends in the Labour movement still. And that hangover, as I think one of your other guests referred to it as, the Jeremy Corbyn hangover, is still very much there. And there's still a lot of people who would have a lot more sympathy for Palestinians than they do for the Israeli state. And therefore, this is now becoming very clear when we have that meeting last evening, the pressure being put on Keir Starmer to be different from the Prime Minister and to try and look as if he's been more supportive of the Palestinians than he is of Israel. And it shouldn't be a competition. Let's be very clear about this. We should have clarity around what has happened in Israel, what has happened in the Gaza Strip, and then move on from that.
Tim Davie, I want to ask you about, Arlene, on this issue. Obviously, he had to face the 1922 committee about this and defend the BBC's policy of not calling Hamas a terrorist group. What did you make of it? I don't know if you had time to digest what happened yesterday, but how do you think the BBC are faring in this particular issue at the moment?
I cannot for the life of me, Bev, understand why they're digging in on this issue, because it is a prescribed organisation. In law, it is a terrorist organisation under the Terrorism Act 2000. And therefore, I cannot understand why they've decided, quote unquote, they can't take sides. Nobody's asking them to take sides. We're asking them to report factually what has happened. And Hamas is a terrorist organisation in law in the United Kingdom. So why can't they just report that?
And Arlene, what do you make of this 250 Muslim councillors now, part of the Labour Muslim network, have written to Sir Keir Starmer demanding a ceasefire, demanding a change of position? I was going through some of the constituencies earlier, Arlene. Rochdale, Rotherham, well known, of course, for their grooming gangs. Brent, 6 councillors from there, the biggest population of Jews in Britain. And Kirklees, 6 councillors there. That, of course, was home to the Batley Grammar School teacher. Not a peep out of any of these councillors about issues that actually affected their constituents. Why are these councillors so obsessed with Gaza?
You know, this is going to be a very tricky issue for Sir Keir Starmer. He is now at a point where he has to decide, is he going to move away from his very clear position and then look as if he's weak, as you said in the introduction? Is there going to be another U-turn? Because that will show him as a weak leader and show him as being captured by those on the backbenches and indeed by his councillors and members. Or is he going to give the clarity that is needed? We had some very interesting debates in the House of Lords this week on Israel and Gaza, and incredibly around proportionality and how proportionality works in international law. And people are using phrases that actually they don't fully understand. And I think it's really important that when we talk about Israel's right to defend themselves and to use proportionate actions, that people understand that if there was a ceasefire, the only people that benefits is actually Hamas. And so I think that the Prime Minister calling for a pause to allow humanitarian aid, to allow the hostages to come forward, is a very sensible way forward. But a ceasefire allows Hamas to regroup, and it will cause damage, more damage to the Israeli state. And I just think, why would they do that? That's giving away the right to defend themselves. And therefore, people need to be very clear that what we have to say about Israel is something that is based in international law, not what people think international law actually says.
And Arlene, it's fair to say the Conservative Party have had their problems, of course, in the past, accusations of Islamophobia, even amongst Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister at the time. But it's certainly a hugely divisive issue. How important do you think the Muslim vote is going to be at the next general election?
Well, I don't think it's right to see the Muslim vote as homogeneous, because I think there's a lot of Muslims who are outraged by Hamas because they don't want to be seen to be supporters of Hamas, rightly so. It's a bit like in Northern Ireland when the IRA were murdering people. The Catholic community did not want to be seen as supporters of the IRA. And therefore, I think it's wrong for us to just look at the Muslim community as one bloc. I think they are very genuinely, as we all are, concerned about innocent Palestinian people who are being used by Hamas as human shields and are suffering greatly in that region. Therefore, I do think that it's important that we make the differentiation between Hamas and the Palestinian people. I think that's really important.
Arlene, I just want to ask you, as somebody that has such experience of politics and policy, but also as a mother, we're waking up this morning to news of another shooting in America, in Maine. The gunman is still on the run, apparently. At what point does America start to admit that there is a problem now with gun crime and perhaps do something about it?
Well, we're long past the point where they should have admitted they have a problem with gun crime. I mean, every atrocity that happens in America, we have this discussion, but we never move on from it.
No.
And people assert their rights under the Constitution. Others say that they want to deal with it, and then they move on, and another atrocity happens. There is a real need for Americans. America are always very quick to tell other countries how to deal with issues. They have an issue and they need to deal with it. And I'm sure that there'll be plenty reflecting on that today after that atrocity in Maine.